So odds are when you hear the word electrolyte, you probably think about an energy drink, maybe Gatorade, or my personal favorite, Brondo, the thirst mutilator. But energy and electrolytes are intertwined, and it's very important for the storage and conversion of all the energy in the world that we have electrolytes and that they work well. Because we use a lot of energy, okay? Your laptop uses a few watts. 1.2 gigawatts is enough to go back in time. But the entire planet uses terawatts of energy. Okay, that's a million joules every second. And that's a lot. And you know, that's kind of a problem since a lot of the energy we use comes from burning liquefied dinosaurs that bubble out of the ground. But anybody who fills up their car with a 150 million year old 87 octane Allosaurus knows that that's becoming a little bit more expensive these days too. Because once it's gone, it's gone. As it turns out, burning stuff to make energy is pretty terrible for our environment, and it puts carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and that causes things like climate change. And these guys projected that we need more than 10 terawatts of carbon-free power by 2050 just to stabilize atmospheric carbon at 450 ppm. So what we really want to be able to do is turn chemical energy directly into electricity without transforming it into heat or mechanical energy, okay? That's what we really want to do. Because those conversions are a loss of energy, a loss of efficiency. And that's where the electrolytes come in, because we've known how to convert chemical energy to electricity for actually a very long time. You just put two dissimilar metals in contact, and you can get a charge to flow. If you ever made a potato clock, that's exactly what's happening. So you can move charged species, but the trick is you need to move ions along with them because charge needs to stay neutral. And we've actually gotten pretty slick at making things like this. I mean, we don't go walking around with two jars, right, to power our Facebook machine, right? We make it a sandwich, and the electrolyte's the good stuff in the middle, right? This is more or less what modern batteries look like. But in most cases, the electrolyte's a liquid that's held in a porous matrix, okay? But the idea is to make electrolytes as thin as possible so the ions don't have to travel as far. Here's a credit card, a sheet of paper, and an average battery separator to scale, all right? So that's the distance between you and this. This is the Boeing Dreamliner battery that made the news a little while back. A dendrite of lithium pierced the electrolyte separator and caused all the battery's energy to dissipate all at once. That's not good. That's not good at 30,000 feet in the air, okay? So up to now, I've been talking about batteries, okay? And batteries use an electrolyte to mediate the storage of chemical energy electrically, okay? A fuel cell is a different type of device that also uses an electrolyte, but we're converting energy from some chemical source into electricity. Now, most fuel cells run on hydrogen, which doesn't have the best reputation. But as it turns out, anything that you want to use for a fuel has to be dense in energy. That's what makes it a fuel, okay? If it didn't store energy effectively, it wouldn't be any good, okay? As it turns out, 150 million year old allosaurs that bubble out of the ground are very energy dense, and that's why we use them, because they're free and they bubble out of the ground. But hydrogen is actually not energy dense at all. So what we want to do is be able to make devices that can efficiently convert things other than hydrogen. And one of the materials that we're working with at UT is something that may have the capability to do just that. This is the crystal structure of cesium dihydrogen phosphate, and this is a material that's able to handle some of the more complex fuels in the context of being a fuel cell electrolyte. At low temperatures, the crystal structure actually shifts very subtly with just a small increase in temperature to about the temperature in your broiler, 230 C. And what that does, it just tweaks the crystal structure just a little bit. And what happens is the proton conductivity of CDP jumps 3 orders of magnitude, 2,000 times. So what actually happens is it goes from conducting like a solid to conducting like a liquid, but it's solid, okay? So this is a pretty unusual material. And what we've used this for is to make hydrogen fuel cells, like I said, to take hydrogen and oxygen and react them in a slow and controlled way, not making a big explosion and then harnessing the heat to drive some drivetrain. But one of the challenges to making these devices was making the electrodes. And what we did was we actually used a vapor deposition method to coat platinum on the surface of all of the electrolyte in the electrode. And the platinum is actually the catalyst for the chemical reactions that occur in the electrode, and it's also the electrical interconnect. It's a wire. It's the most expensive wire in the world. But another thing we can use these materials for is to run them in reverse and purify hydrogen from an impure stream. So instead of using fuel to make electricity, we can use them to make electricity to make fuel. And that's what we would call an electrochemical hydrogen pump. And what we found is that nickel can be a very effective catalyst for evolving hydrogen from the surface of this material. So getting away from platinum in this context is very important and may enable some new technologies that may enable us to move away from burning dinosaurs. This is Glacier National Park. I took this. There's not many glaciers left. I hope that the effort that we're putting out can help keep them around for a little while longer. Thanks.